Good afternoon, my brothers. This is GMO coming to you from his office in Webster Groves. I wanted to take a couple minutes just to connect with you guys. I know I do this in the gloom, but given what is in front of us, I thought it'd be good for everybody to hear the same message, the same encouragement, hopefully some inspiration and some direction. Two things coming up that are really exciting. Number one, this explosion that we keep talking about. And number two is the Q School that you guys are starting to kick off and lead. A lot of what I'm about to share with you comes from my experience as a site lead, immersing myself in free to lead connections with other Nantans that are 43 feet ahead of us. Loving everything I'm reading about Q School, Q Source, but also as a men's ministry leader in my church, and a lot of research I've done and learnings I've had around men and change. And we do not like it, and it's difficult for us. And so what we're recognizing is this explosion is about to happen for a couple of reasons. Number one, men are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Another reason is we are tired of hearing the media or Goo Nation call us toxic, deadbeat, abusers, lackluster, mediocre. Gyms are closed. Men are probably not always going to rush back to the gym. We also know in the culture now in 2020, hopefully post-COVID, post-lockdown, that men are suffering from obesity and loneliness, and that is really something that makes me very sad. Men traditionally haven't known how to connect, communicate, share deeply. A lot of that is changing, I believe. It was interesting with Miles Davis on the wedding or the marriage bliss call this week that he said, you know, if I had to be my father, I could do that pretty easily. Work, come home, read the paper, eat dinner, go to bed. And now men have a lot more responsibility, which is a huge blessing that we get to be more involved in our kids and our families and focused on our relationships. But do we have the skills? Do we have the men, the fathers who led us as good role models? In my case, probably not. I don't know about you, but a lot of men, as I'm understanding, didn't have that training or don't have that perspective. The other thing with Q School is that it's important to realize that it's not just modeling a beatdown, a good thing. There is so much around that that is important for us to understand, and I thought I'd share with you a little bit of my perspective on that. The first thing is recognizing that as far as the core principles is open to all men. So as the nation is going to be promoting F3, as we get on nationally syndicated podcasts and other promotions, men are going to start researching, looking on the web, finding out more about F3 and where they can join. So traditionally where we've had men that we've invited that we know that have gone through that filter, we're now going to have men show up that we don't know. Are we really open to all men? Or are we only open to the men that we know? And so I would just call you to be thinking about meeting that man and modeling this for your packs, that you're going to love that man no matter where he is and love him enough to bring him along, to be part of our packs, to be willing to change, to be willing to be open, and to maybe be more meeting in the middle, that we can understand who each other are and love them for who they are, but also bring them into our culture. The other area that I want to talk with you a little bit about is the structure of our beatdowns. So the first thing that happens with the Q is obviously the disclaimer. I'm going to give it to you right now. I would ask you to look at your first Q on the nation's website. What I'm seeing is a lot of guys rattling off the disclaimer and the core principles, and I'm already lost, and FNG would be like, what did he just say? So the purpose of this disclaimer is to show that you are in charge and you're going to take charge. You're going to wake the men up and you're going to tell them that if they have any questions or problems, that you're the guy to go to. So the disclaimer goes, good morning, gentlemen. My name is GMO. I will be your Q today. F3 is free, volunteer, peer-led. I am not a professional. I am not aware of any injuries. Push yourself, don't hurt yourself. Modify as needed. Let's go. So that's what it should look like. Louder and looking at everyone around the circle, and you're waking them up. And you're also, the disclaimer is not the core principles. This thing is free. It's peer-led. I'm a volunteer and I'm not a professional. So there could be risks for F3. In fact, risk is something that the nation is looking at, is to do a risk assessment. This could be a problem for us. So it's important that you deliver this crisply and clearly, and as if you're in charge. I've seen a couple of AOs where a guy has recorded the disclaimer, kind of putting on a little bit of a show, or other guys have mumbled through it. And it's important that that is sharp. The next area would be the thing. Awesome, outstanding. There's so much good that everyone is planning around that. Two things. I had a couple guys give me some do better, which was to have more music. And great, you're free to lead, you're free to do that. I do it periodically and maybe just one or two songs if I do it at all. What I've noticed is when I'm at a beatdown where there's music is, number one, it pulls me into what I was doing when that song was playing. The other thing is that it can prevent guys from wanting to mumble chatter because they don't want to interrupt somebody else's experience listening to the song. And the last thing is that it blocks the mumble chatter. And you know that I'm a proponent of mumble chatter. And the reason for that is a guy may not hear for the whole week, especially for the whole day. Anybody say his name, encourage him. And so for me, my goal when I'm at a beatdown is to make sure that every single man hears me give them a word of encouragement. The other thing is that it encourages the pick up the six. As a cue, as a sight cue, you should always be making sure that you say Jigglypuff or Sour Mash, you're in charge of the six. That guy, any guy who's the six, is probably struggling and probably trying to keep up and is thinking, these guys are too strong for me, I'm gonna quit. And so that pick up the six is super important. Mumble chatter, pick up the six are the two most important things for me. And you can imagine for somebody showing up or so far down the fitness level that they are going to consider not showing up. So I would encourage you to think about those two things. The last piece is around the announcements and the COT. As far, I had gotten this feedback too, do better around, I didn't name all of the announcements. And what's happening is people are wanting to promote and make sure their buddies or other AO's initiatives are announced. That can take a lot of time. The purpose of that is quickly, what's the next thing coming up? As a side note, we're working on a newsletter, or you can say announcements are in Slack. The thing we need to remember is to get to the COT for the Q, to give words of inspiration. I would also encourage that we do maybe a better job of pausing to say, are there anything someone wants to bring up, anything somebody wants to share, making sure we're thinking about, especially when there's an FNG there, to call somebody out, to ask them to tell the PACs their was now story can be a great reminder for the PACs as to why they're there, but also inspire the FNG to see and visualize somebody's, here's who I was, and then here's who I am now. So let's spend a little bit more time thinking about an opportunity to capture the PACs and certainly an FNG's heart. The other area around the COT is we say F3 is not affiliated with any religion, but I'm a Christian. And what follows a lot of times is a Bible verse or a prayer, and you are free to lead. And I would just ask you to think about the man that's showing up. The men that are there may not be inspired. In fact, a little bit turned off by that. For me as Nantan, and before that, I am a Christian. And it was hard for me to take the role of Nantan because I couldn't lead with that as who I am. And the reason I couldn't do that is because I didn't want men to see me as only that, and which was hard. It was almost like I had to make a decision. And what I've come to realize is that I don't have to do that. It can be a yes and. I can be a Christian. I can talk about my faith. I may say a prayer. I may say a word of encouragement. I may just say, I love you all. I may have an inspirational quote that I'm going to reflect on. But just like Jesus, he didn't preach and teach first. He loved first. And so for me, coming out of my church faith community has really opened my heart. And I think it's attracted other men to me because I'm not only leading and not only talking about that aspect of who I am. I want to love them first. I want to get to know who they are. I want to know where they're at. I want to know how I can listen and help them. And then if it comes up, I follow up with a faith conversation. So I know for a lot of men, I've also heard guys talking about, whoa, this is fertile ground for our ministry or our church. I would just ask for you to recognize we're F3. We're open to all men. It's important for us to welcome them, make sure they feel welcomed. We build trust. We love them first. And then we have other conversations to pull them in more deeply. The other thing I guess I'll leave you with is, through this pandemic and through this last year, I really struggled. And I accelerated. And I would not have accelerated if I didn't have these men around me. One of the things that Dark Helmet said, this was back in the June time period when the riots and everything were sparking up. And he said, and I'll never forget it, he said, there are wartime generals and there are peacetime generals. We're at war. You're a wartime general and you do not have a choice. So pick up your bootstraps and pull them up and get out there and lead. I'm not sure if that's where each of you feel that you are, where we are, but it certainly seems like there are many forces against us, our communities, our country, and the world. And I am inspired by each of you every day. If you ever have any questions, concerns, want to just connect, what ideas you have, what struggles you're having, I'm your guy. Anybody on the SLT, Rhonda loves the heck out of you guys. And I'm just so grateful that I have the opportunity to, be in this position to serve you and love you. And like I said, hopefully inspire you. So thanks for the acceleration you're given to our region. And thank you so much for the acceleration and the love you show to me. Good luck with the Q schools. Get out there and kill them and love them. I love you, men. Take care.